You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into STB Sports Take, Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham, wearing some ridiculous glasses right now, but we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for tuning in. Love to have you. Why am I wearing these ridiculous sunglasses? Well, today is the 100th episode of STB Sports Take. Thank you, all of you that are listening, all of you that are watching. Thank you. This is so much fun. We've got a jam-packed, awesome 100th episode for you today. We're talking Drew Brees. Big news out of New Orleans. We're talking Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Some big news there as well. We're also talking NBA, Jazz talk. March Madness is upon us. Jam-packed 100th show. I promise not to wear these any longer, but had to do something to commemorate and celebrate the 100th episode. The first episode ever was clear back in March of 2016. So it's taken me 5 years to get to 100 episodes, which I know is a long time, but YouTube has helped me a ton to be more consistent over these last few weeks. And so this is not the 100th episode on YouTube, but it is the 100th on all the podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, things like that. So check us out on all of those. Please subscribe on YouTube. I love doing this. It is so much fun. I'm putting a lot of passion and effort into it. I hope you guys can feel that. Please continue to watch, listen, comment, share it with your friends. Let's spread the word and let's build this baby. It's a ton of fun. So let's dive right in. I wanted to start with Drew Brees, but right before I sat down to do this, news came out of, lo and behold, Shaq Barrett signing a 4-year deal, a 4-year extension with the Tampa Bay Bucks for $72 million, half of which, $36 million, is fully guaranteed. So I called it. Tom Brady renegotiates his deal specifically so that Shaq Barrett would come back. It worked. Shaq Barrett is back for 4 more years. He'll be there for the next 2 that we believe Tom Brady will be there for the next 2. Shaq Barrett, the most important defensive player they have, also back. The thing that the pieces are falling into place for the Tampa Bay Bucks. They're still listed second behind the Kansas City Chiefs for Super Bowl favorites. Do not be surprised to see them repeat. If Father Time eventually will catch up to Tom Brady, it hasn't yet, and maybe, just maybe, he can win an 8th, especially if the defense plays well. Maybe he pulls off even like a Peyton Manning type thing, where Peyton's second Super Bowl victory, which came with the Broncos, was really riding the coattails of Von Miller and that defense. This could be Tom Brady's chance to do the same thing. I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Brady and Peyton Manning had a chat. They're good friends, and maybe Peyton was like, look, dude, that defense and that offensive line, they made the difference. You know, my body was starting to go. And Peyton got a Super Bowl when he was pretty average, honestly, that season. So Tom Brady's still going strong, and Shaq Barrett's back. Look out for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Okay, big news in the NFL. Not super surprising news, but it is actually official now. Drew Brees retires 20 seasons in the NFL, 15 of which were for the New Orleans Saints. The guy is an absolute legend. He won Super Bowl 44, which was back in the 2009 season. He was Super Bowl MVP that year. Never won a league MVP, but he also played in the era of Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, putting up huge statistical numbers. But 13-time Pro Bowler, retires as the all-time leader in passing yards, which Tom Brady will pass him this season, but he retires as the all-time leader in passing yards. All-time leader in passes completed, which Tom Brady will also pass him in. If not late this upcoming season, then it'll be in the 2022 season that he passes him. Second in passing touchdowns behind only Tom Brady. Second in pass completion percentage behind only Deshaun Watson, who is still playing, and it's only by 0.1%, so you could see that change. And then fifth all-time in career passer rating behind Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, all 4 of which are still playing. So of the guys that have completed their careers, he is number 1 in passer rating, completion percentage, yards, and pass completions, and then second in touchdowns. Granted, he will be passed by Tom Brady in a few of those that he's number one in, but the guy retires as number one in all of those statistical categories, has a Super Bowl victory and ring to go on his resume, has a Super Bowl MVP, has 13 Pro Bowls. He is a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt about it, no question about it. The question is, where does he rank all time? Where does Drew Brees rank all time? And this is an interesting question because oftentimes the names come up, you're hearing, there's more talk for Aaron Rodgers, there's Steve Young's and John Elway's and Troy Aikman's and Terry Bradshaw's, Brett Favre. There's guys like that you're going to have some people want to argue should be ahead of Drew Brees. I would argue that none of them are. None of them. Aaron Rodgers has a chance to pass him if he can do some more things, but Aaron Rodgers has that flashier name. He's the more popular, trendy guy. But just look at the actual results that each player has produced, and Drew Brees has had the better career. Drew Brees, they each just have one Super Bowl victory, one Super Bowl MVP, and one Super Bowl appearance. So you can't say Aaron Rodgers is more clutch or Aaron Rodgers wins more or anything like that because they are dead even in that most important category. So then it comes down to their stats, and we just went over them. Drew Brees is number one all time in so many different statistical categories for quarterback. So my all-time GOATs for quarterback are Tom Brady, number one. And then you've got Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, numbers 2 and 3, probably in that order for me. Peyton Manning. And that's the other thing. Peyton Manning's numbers are basically the same as Drew Brees, slightly worse all time, but he's got the Peyton Manning name. He only had 2 Super Bowls, and the second one we just went over, he won it really riding the coattails of his defense. And so you could almost argue that Drew Brees is in the conversation with Peyton Manning. The only guy that's head and shoulders above him is Tom Brady, who's going to retire with a minimum now of 7 Super Bowl rings, and he's going to own all of the record books because he's already at the top in some of them, and he'll pass Drew Brees this upcoming season or the season after that. So Tom Brady is head and shoulders above the competition. After that, I'm sorry, you've got to have Drew Brees right in the conversation, starting at number 2. I'm going to put him at number 4 all time behind Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana. Joe Montana played in a different era where his numbers aren't quite as gaudy, but the wins were there. He dominated his era more than these guys have dominated theirs, with the exception of Tom Brady. And so you got to give Joe Montana the nod ahead of a Drew Brees. But to me, Drew Brees is the 4th greatest quarterback of all time. The 4th greatest quarterback of all time. And truthfully, he got kind of hosed out of at least Super Bowl appearances. He had the absolute worst no call in the history of sports. In the history of any sport that I can think of that I've ever seen, that no call against the Rams, where it was the worst pass interference we've ever seen. The guy literally gets absolutely annihilated a full second before the ball arrives. No call is made. And the Rams go on to win that game. And that's a game that the Saints would have won, and they would have at least gotten a Super Bowl appearance. So he kind of got robbed there. The season before that was the 2018 season. So it was in 2019, but it was for the 2018 season. The year before that, 2018, for the 2017 season, they're playing the Vikings at Minnesota, and they're up by 1. They just had what should have been a game-winning field goal with 23 seconds left, I think it was. And the Vikings somehow, some way go 75 yards in under a half minute and win the game. They get a 61-yard touchdown pass on a play that was designed really to just try and get them a 10 more yards for like a miracle field goal. 61-yard pass. I mean, that's a 78-yard field goal. Okay, from where they were at, they were 78. It would have been a 78-yard field goal from where they were at. So they're trying to just get like 15, 20 more yards in hopes of getting like a 58-yard miracle field goal. The Saints absolutely were going to win that game, and one of the worst missed tackles we've ever seen in playoff history happens. And somehow, some way, they get the Minnesota Miracle. They get a touchdown as time expires, and that's the ball game. The Vikings win and the Saints go home. So Drew Brees had 2 chances there at the end where things just didn't fall his way. And it's interesting, I do believe Tom Brady's head and shoulders above the competition, but Tom Brady's kind of had the opposite throughout his career. The lucky breaks where it could have gone either way, they've all kind of gone Tom Brady's way. And that has not been the case for Drew Brees. So he does have the one Super Bowl ring, Super Bowl MVP. Really cool story in New Orleans, just a couple, I think it was like 4 years after Katrina. And he's just an absolute legend and an icon. I've loved watching him play. He's a shorter guy. He doesn't fit the typical mold of the superstar quarterback. He went to Purdue. He's balding. He's like barely 6 feet tall. He's not super athletic. Like, there's so many things that like go against him visually where we don't put him in a Peyton Manning type light. But the results are he's one of the absolute greatest that has ever played the game, and he'll sorely be missed. So New Orleans now has to move on. This was expected. We talked about the mayor of the city publicly campaigning to get Russell Wilson to go there. But they've re-signed Taysom Hill. They're working on a new deal for Jameis Winston. And the Taysom Hill contract, do not be fooled by it. It's like $160 million or over 4 years or something, crazy. It's like, but it's totally voidable. He's not going to get that money. It's all the years are voidable. He will get all of the money he's due from the contract he just had signed. But what's going to happen here is I think you're going to see Jameis Winston get a long-term contract. I think you're going to see Jameis Winston be the starter. Taysom Hill is a uniquely talented player. He's one of the most athletic and gifted players in the entire NFL. But you've got Jameis Winston, who is more of a proven long-term starting quarterback. He did have 30 picks. He's one of only 2 guys in my lifetime. I was born in 1981. So in my lifetime, Jameis Winston is one of only 2 guys to throw for 30 interceptions. The other guy was also a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. That was Vinny Testaverde in 1988. So Jameis Winston, the last year he started, led the league in passing yards, threw for 30 touchdowns, but also threw for 30 picks. And they're hoping that, being under Drew Brees has maybe helped him. And now with Sean Payton, he had Jameis Winston also had the eye surgery. So he's had some years to adjust, and be under new coach and all-time great quarterback and just mature as a human being. And so I think you're going to see him be the starter. Taysom Hill did go 3-1 as a starter this last year. He wasn't spectacular in any of the games. In fact, one of the games that he won, he actually played pretty poorly. So I think he is a uniquely talented weapon that is perfectly matched for Sean Payton and his insanely creative offensive mind. And so I think Taysom will stay put in New Orleans. I think Jameis Winston will stay put in New Orleans. I think you'll see Jameis Winston as the main starting quarterback. But I think you'll see a lot of Taysom Hill. Don't put it past Sean Payton to use both of them. Almost like Urban Meyer did back when he was winning championships at Florida. He had multiple quarterbacks that were uniquely different, very gifted arm, very gifted runner. Tim Tebow obviously was a freshman at the time, but he used Tim Tebow quite a bit. And I wouldn't be totally shocked if you see Sean Payton say, you know what? I don't have to follow the NFL rules. I don't have to follow the NFL norm of just one quarterback. I'm going to throw Taysom Hill in there once in a while. I'm not just going to have Jameis Winston. We're going to tandem quarterback this. You see that in college with decent regularity, and it works at some of the highest levels of the college game. I don't think you'll see it quite to that level, with Sean Payton and the Saints, but I do think you'll see it a little bit. I don't think it'll actually surprise me. It will surprise me if we don't see Taysom Hill make multiple pass attempts each game. It'll actually surprise me. So I think you'll see Jameis Winston be the starter. Taysom will get used quite a bit. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. When he can throw the ball. When he's on the field, he is a threat to do so many different things. And if you've got him under center every single play, it actually takes away from his unique ability to do so many different things and to throw the defenses off and to just keep the defenses guessing. He's actually more valuable to the team in the current situation that he's in the current position that he's in, being kind of like the Swiss Army knife, as they call him. So that's my prediction. And I was right about the Shaq Barrett prediction. You're going to see Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston both there. And you know what? If Jameis goes back to 30-pick Jameis, Taysom will be there to be the starter. That'll absolutely take place. They're not going to put up with a bunch of turnovers from Jameis Winston. And Taysom Hill will be there. So you'll have a little bit of a quarterback competition, but not really. I think Jameis Winston will be the starter. Taysom will be the Swiss Army knife that he is. I think you'll see him throw several times a game and keep the defenses guessing. And we'll see how the Saints do. I think they still make the playoffs, probably at the low end of the playoffs. But don't put it past don't put it past Sean Payton to come up with something super, super creative for those guys. Okay, transitioning now to the NBA. Got a little Jazz talk. Jazz are not only the number one team in the NBA, but they're also in my hometown. So we're going to talk to them first. They had 2 games over the weekend. The first one, they won. They beat the Rockets 114-99. But Houston was, first of all, Houston's now lost 15 straight. They're absolutely awful. But they were also without their four of their best players. John Wall did not play. Victor Oladipo did not play. Christian Wood's still out. In fact, since he went out, they've lost their 15 straight. And PJ Tucker did not play, and he's likely going to be out of Houston here soon. So I was not super impressed. I watched that game. I was not super impressed with the Jazz, so I was very curious to see how they would do yesterday against the Warriors on the road. And they were down the entire game. They did mount a really impressive comeback, but then it fell short, and the wheels fell off, and they ended up losing by 131, 118. So they give up 131 points, which is not very Jazz-like. They're one of the better defensive teams in the NBA. But it was kind of just the Warriors' night. They shot really well, far above their season average. The Jazz shot really poorly, far below their season average. So it was just one of those games that was just like, you know what? It's just not our night. It's the Warriors' night. Hats off to them. It was Steph Curry's birthday, so happy birthday to Steph. He had 32 points, 9 assists. He was 6 of 9 from 3. That guy, he's the greatest shooter we've ever seen. Gobert had 6 blocks against Houston, had 4 more blocks yesterday, and he was actually a plus 11. So Rudy Gobert, after seeing, maybe he's been listening to the podcast, maybe he's been seeing the NBA release these Defensive Player of the Year rankings that they do where they've had Ben Simmons. We're going to get into that more. Ben Simmons ranked ahead of Rudy Gobert for Defensive Player of the Year, which is honestly laughable in my opinion. It's actually laughable to think that Ben Simmons has a greater impact on the defensive end of the floor than Rudy Gobert does. Like that's absolutely absurd. But anyway, I think Gobert has seen that, has taken it personally, and he goes out after the All-Star break, 6 blocks in his first game, 4 blocks in his second game, averaging 5 blocks a game for the last 2 games, a plus 11. He also had 28 rebounds yesterday. 28 rebounds, 24 points, 28 rebounds, 4 blocks, and was a plus 11 on the plus minus in the box score. Absolute monster game from Rudy Gobert. And Donovan Mitchell, by the way, he had 24 points. He shot below average. He was like 39%. He's only like a 43% shooter. He's not the most efficient scorer. But he was a minus 26. A minus 26. So in Donovan Mitchell's minutes yesterday, the Jazz were outscored by 26 points during those minutes. Rudy Gobert on the flip side, the Jazz outscored the Warriors by 11. I'm sorry, don't tell me Rudy Gobert doesn't have a humongous impact on the outcome of games. He does. The Jazz now, they're heading in the wrong direction. They still have the number 1 record in the league. They still have the best point differential in the league, but they're headed in the wrong direction. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They now go into a brutal road trip. Clear back in the East Coast. They had to fly from San Francisco all the way over to Boston. So tomorrow night they play at Boston. Then they play... sorry, I had it pulled up here. They play at Boston, at Washington, at Toronto, at Chicago. So 4 games in a row on the road, all of which are winnable games. The Jazz are better than each of those teams. The hardest game will be tomorrow night against Boston. I still think Washington's a sleeper type team that will eventually make their way into the playoffs. They've not done well since the All-Star break, but they've played some of the better teams in the league, like the Bucks. And Russell Westbrook, by the way, had a monster game, had a triple-double. Had like 42 points or something like that, but they lose. But it was to the Bucks. But anyway, so the Jazz have those 4 games on the road. Then they play Brooklyn back here at home. That'll be a fun one. But we got to see what happens with the Jazz over this road trip, because they are headed in the wrong direction. And while this is on the road, these are winnable games against teams that are inferior to them. They need to get back on track, and I would like to see them go 4-0 on this 4-game road trip, 3-1 at the bare minimum. And tomorrow's game is on TNT, nationally televised. The game on Thursday against Washington, also nationally televised on NBA TV. And then their next one that's nationally televised is against Brooklyn, which will be a fun one here in Utah. We will not see Kevin Durant for that one, though. Kevin Durant out for another week or 2. That was announced this morning. Anthony Davis out for another week or two. Joel Embiid went down over the weekend. He's out for a couple of weeks. So we got 3 mega superstars, all of which are in the 7-foot range. Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, and Anthony Davis all out for at least 2 weeks. And I'll tell you right now, the Lakers and the Nets, they seem like they're on a collision course for the NBA Finals, a matchup at the NBA Finals. If Anthony Davis comes back. If Anthony Davis does not come back, the Lakers have no shot. The Nets actually do have a shot. I think the Nets, even without Kevin Durant, are the favorites in the East. The Lakers, on the other hand, I don't think get out of the first round in the West without Anthony Davis. But if the Nets can reach the finals without Kevin Durant, think how good they are with him. Again, we gotta see, and that's what I'm so anxious to see, is just how are they going to make it work with all these guys that need all these shots and these minutes. And I don't know. I want to see them get more shots, more games in together, because if they're going to be this favorite in the entire NBA, we've got to see them play together more and more. But this is a year where I think anything can happen, especially as more injuries are taking place. You've got this team chemistry issue that we're still curious about in Brooklyn. You've got Anthony Davis sitting out. Kevin Durant's got a hamstring injury that they're beatable without Kevin Durant. I mean, you put the Jazz up against them. The Jazz could beat them without Kevin Durant. I hate to admit it, I still would probably slightly favor the Nets over the Jazz in a 7-game series, even without Kevin Durant. And I would favor them above almost anybody except maybe, I don't even know. I mean, they might be the favorites to win it unless Anthony Davis comes back for the Lakers. That's how good I think the Nets really are. But an interesting thing I want to get in now, just transitioning a teeny bit, still sticking in the NBA, still talking a little bit about the Jazz and about the Sixers. But the Wizards played the Sixers, and the announcer, what have I been saying about Ben Simmons for a while now? I've been saying that he's overrated. Now, that does not mean I hate Ben Simmons. That does not make me a Ben Simmons hater. Saying that somebody is overrated does not make you a hater. Using statistical, factual points that you make to make a statement does not make you a hater of a player. So everyone that's out there, all you Philly fans getting offended, just chill out a little bit. Ben Simmons is a great player. He's a bona fide starter in the NBA. He's a deserving NBA All-Star. But he's not what he's cracked up to be. The Wizards announcer said Ben Simmons is one of, if not the most overrated players in the entire league. He said that during the broadcast. Obviously, he gets lit up by all the Ben Simmons lovers out there. So he doubles down on Twitter that night and says, no, I stand by this. He's a great player, but he's not what people think he is. And I agree with him. I've said that for a while now. And on one of my previous podcasts, we talked about the Ben Simmons-Donovan Mitchell rivalry. Obviously, they play different positions. Ben Simmons is a point guard, a very tall point guard. And Donovan Mitchell's actually pretty undersized shooting guard. But they play different positions, but they came into the league not at the same time, but a year apart, but were rookies the same year. And I'm doing the quotes for those of you listening, rookies, because Ben Simmons was not a rookie. He was a second-year player. And he won Rookie of the Year because he hadn't played a game in his first season. But again, he had a full year of NBA coaches, NBA training facilities, NBA money, NBA teammates. NBA tutelage and being around the league and watching and observing and practicing. Such a humongous advantage. Not a true rookie. So he wins his fake Rookie of the Year. And Donovan Mitchell would have won it, obviously. He was the best player that was a true rookie that season. And so that kind of started this little rivalry between the two. And even though they're in different conferences, it's kind of always there. And I've shown that Ben Simmons has not improved at all since he entered the league. His numbers are truly identical. You can go look them up for yourself. Points, assists, rebounds, steals, blocks, field goal percentage, three-point field goal percentage. Everything down the list is truly identical from his rookie season, his fake rookie season 4 years ago to today. It's truly identical. The only thing that has improved in Ben Simmons' game is his free throw percentage, which is still horrendous, around 60%. So Ben Simmons I think this year he's actually shooting about 66%, and for his career it's 60%. Donovan Mitchell, on the other hand, is an 84% free throw shooter for his career. So there's just been not any huge improvements in Ben Simmons' game. Nothing that we can point to and say, look, statistically, look how much better he got here. The guy still can't shoot a lick. Donovan Mitchell, on the other hand, continues to improve each season. His points per game goes up each and every season. And let's not kid ourselves. I love the deep statistics and the analytics, and I love like well-rounded players. I'm all for that. I'm a huge advocate of that. Those players are mega important. But let's not kid ourselves. Scoring is the most important part of basketball. That's why all the superstars, who do we always talk about? We talk about Michael Jordan, all-time leading scorer in points per game. We talk about Kobe Bryant. We talk about Shaquille O'Neal. We talk about Hakeem Olajuwon. We talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We talk about LeBron James. We talk about James Harden. And this year, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and Giannis Antetokounmpo, like Steph Curry. What can all of these guys do really well? Score. They score a lot of points. They're scoring 25-plus points per game. Well, guess who doesn't do that and doesn't even come close to doing that? Ben Simmons. Guess who does? Donovan Mitchell. So I did this podcast like last week, and there were some people that commented in YouTube, that I was a Ben Simmons hater. One guy called me a wanker. I'm guessing he was from England. But one guy's like, oh, I'd take Ben Simmons in a heartbeat over Donovan Mitchell, and I commented back that I would not, and then he commented back, well, you better stick to the mic. But guess what, dude? Like, I'm showing you the stats. We're going through it. Like, tell me why you would take Ben Simmons over Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is a significantly better shooter. He's a significantly better scorer. His team is proving to win more games. In the playoffs, Ben Simmons hasn't really done anything spectacular in the playoffs. In fact, he's a huge late-game liability. Ben Simmons, late-night close game, you got to pull him out. Because guess what you're doing? Hack a Simmons, hack a Shaq, hack a Ben, because he can't shoot a free throw. So if Ben Simmons is so great, then why does he have to sit out at the end of games? At the end of a close game in the playoffs, Ben Simmons is on the bench because the guy can't shoot free throws, so they're just going to foul him. So Ben Simmons is a huge late game liability. Donovan Mitchell on the flip side has had tremendous postseason success individually. His team's only won a series, which is the same as Ben Simmons. They've just kind of both been, their team results have been nearly identical. I will give him that in the playoffs. But Donovan Mitchell, from an individual standpoint, has had huge clutch performances. He's also played a lot tougher competition in the West, beating Russell Westbrook and Paul George and the Thunder in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? That was a team people thought had potential finals capabilities. But no, he was knocked out. But they were knocked out by Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz. Last year, Jazz had a huge 3-1 letdown where they give up the 3-1 lead to the Nuggets, who are proving to be a little bit of pretenders this season. But Donovan was going off for like 40, 50. Donovan Mitchell's postseason scoring average is over 27 points a game for his career. And that's in 22 or 23 games. Ben Simmons, in the same number of games, 22 or 23, is averaging 15 a game. So I get it. Ben Simmons averages 2 or 3 more assists and 3 or 4 more rebounds. But the guy is averaging 12 fewer points in the postseason, 9 fewer points in the regular season, and can't shoot worth a lick. He's a huge late game liability. I'm sorry. I'm taking Donovan Mitchell over Ben Simmons. And then you look at the All-Star voting, and the voting obviously was fans is a huge part, but then they also had the players voted and the media voted. And so don't take it from me. Don't take it just from me. The All-Star game this year, Donovan Mitchell was rated 5th in the West by the players. Simmons was rated 6th in the East by the players, among guards for both of them. Simmons was 11th by fans. Donovan Mitchell was 4th by fans. And then Donovan Mitchell was 4th by media, and Ben Simmons was 7th by media. So not with the players, not with the fans, not with the media did Ben Simmons rank higher than Donovan Mitchell. None of them ranked him higher. And now, again, that's in Western Conference, Eastern Conference. But Donovan Mitchell's competition in the West is Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, Luka Doncic, CP3, Devin Booker. That's the competition that Donovan Mitchell was up against. Stiff competition in the East as well. Kyrie Irving, James Harden. Those are big names. Curry, Dame, Luka in the West. Bradley Beal in the East. But Bradley Beal, he's leading the league in scoring. He's a walking bucket. I get that. But he's not some big name that everybody thinks is like this mega superstar that they want to build a team around. Not at all. And then you go into Zach LaVine and Jaylen Brown. Those guys were ranked ahead of Ben Simmons. Zach LaVine, Jaylen Brown. So the competition's a little bit stiffer in the West than it is in the East at the guard position for this. And Donovan Mitchell still ranked higher but among the players' votes, the fan votes, and the media votes than Ben Simmons did. So I'm sorry. I'm taking Donovan Mitchell all day, every day over Ben Simmons. So you can keep Ben Simmons over there in Philly. Okay, transitioning now to the Lakers a little bit. Got to talk a little bit about them and then NCAA tournament. But the Lakers, they get a win on Friday, 105-100 over the Pacers. It's the only game they've played since the All-Star break. Their All-Star break seems to have been like 2 weeks long. And that's the only game they've had so far. So they win by 5, but LeBron played horrible, and he only had 2 points in the fourth quarter. He missed a pair of late free throws in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, Kyle Kuzma had 15 points in the fourth quarter. And so LeBron's closing ability continues to prove to be below average at best. And so the need for Anthony Davis is at an all-time high for the Lakers. And Kyle Kuzma said at one point, so he was quoted saying, "I was pretty much eye-effing him the whole time to pass me the ball," meaning Kuzma to LeBron. I was eye-effing him the whole time to pass me the ball. So even Kuzma is claiming, can you imagine somebody saying that about Michael Jordan? Give me the ball. Can you imagine a player who starts half the time, doesn't start half the time? Like a very much a role player on your team, the third best at best player on your team, saying, "Oh, I was eye-effing him the whole time to give me the ball." Can you imagine someone on the Chicago Bulls, not named Scottie Pippen, but even below that, like a Ron Harper or something like that, saying in a post-game press conference, "Oh yeah, I was telling MJ, I was eye-effing him, give me the ball, give me the ball." That would never happen. That would never happen because Michael Jordan was the greatest closer that the game has ever seen, possibly the greatest closer that any sport has ever seen. LeBron just isn't that. LeBron's an all-time great. He's probably second greatest of all time. But this is the type of thing that makes LeBron James not the GOAT. The clutch gene is not there. The killer instinct is not there. He doesn't have it like Michael Jordan had it. He doesn't have it like Kobe Bryant had it. He's got guys like Kyle Kuzma telling him, "Give me the ball." So there's a huge difference there. Lakers need Anthony Davis more than ever, and they might need a true closer still because the bubble ain't coming to him this year. The bubble's not here to save him this year. Okay, last thing. NCAA tournament is upon us. We missed March Madness last year. March Madness is something that I absolutely love. It's one of the greatest events in all of sports. It is here. I have created an STB Sports Take Bracket group. I'll put the link in the description on YouTube and in all the podcasts actually sections. So if you're looking on Apple Podcasts or whatever, just look in the description. You'll see the link there. But if you just go to ESPN.com Tournament Challenge and you search for STB Sports Take, you'll be able to find it there. I've also linked it on my Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, so you can check it all out there. Instagram story, that is. So check that out. I'm going to give $100 to the winner of that. It's totally free to enter, so you don't have to pay anything to enter. Totally free to enter. And I'll give $100 to whoever wins this bracket challenge. And I'll also give you a chance to be on the podcast for a segment. We could do like a Zoom call that we record. You can gloat. You can give your takes, whatever you want to do. It could be kind of fun. So check it out. STB Sports Take Tournament Challenge on ESPN. $100 to the winner. And I'll dive more into my predictions tomorrow. That is all the time we have for today. Have a fantastic Monday. 100th episode is a wrap. I am out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out stbsportstake.com. Simply the best in sports.
'Cause we are